No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 335. And breaking right now, Tommy Robinson in court and facing jail on spurious terror charges over his role as a citizen journalism, as the corrupted deep state tries to shut him down again. But the Unite the Kingdom activist is on fighting form.
You will hear today everything they question me about under the Terrorism Act. None of it makes sense because none of it's to do with terrorism. It's all to do with my legal, lawful activities. Every one of these journalists should be outraged at what they're doing and outraged at this illegal behaviour. This is state persecution. First word to the officer was, we're detaining you under Terrorism Act. I then went, under the fucking Terrorism Act? He went, Tommy, don't worry, we know you're not a terrorist. It's an absolute farce. The entire case is a farce. How the hell I'm here? If it wasn't for Elon Musk, I'd have another massive bill. The only terrorism that's being committed is financial terrorism, and it's waged against me. Because every one of these cases costs 10s or 20 or 30 or 50 or even £100,000, yeah?
But the MSM are not reporting the truth about the extraordinary scenes today. So we are live at the Westminster Magistrates Court in central London with Lauren Lunn Farrow, who has been in court for Urban Scoop, and Rebel News founder Ezra Levant, who flew in overnight from Canada because he doesn't trust the MSM to accurately report what really went on. For good reason, by the way. Here's what Tommy told us.
So he says in his statement that I acted suspiciously, didn't answer his questions, and then he doesn't say what questions he asked, and then there was one question he asked. Where are you going to? I said, Benidorm, pull over there. You're detained under Terrorism Act.
So, the honest coverage about this shocking case that shames Britain as the 2000 Terrorism Act is used for blatantly political purposes. Then, we'll show you Tommy's extraordinary clash with a British bashing corporation reporter in the last hour outside of court after they succeeded in gagging independent journalists like Ezra and Lauren from reporting the case.
What did you think of the fact? What did you think of the fact?
It's contempt to talk about a court case while it's
not.
ongoing.
No, it's not. There's no jury. That's only for juries. There's not contempt. That's a lie. That's a lie. No, you're a member of the press.
I can't discuss.
Well, I've looked at your reporting today. I've looked at your reporting. I've looked at your reporting today. Yeah? Why don't you tell the truth?
I'll show you what happened next, but let me tell you, no one is gagged here on Outspoken. This is the coverage of the Tom Terry trial that is focused on the truth. Then, later in the show, another exclusive. George Gilbert, the Big Brother housemate, kicked off the show by Woke ITV for wrongspeak, will finally reveal what he actually said as the cancel culture mob tries to ruin his life, with his parish council even launching a misconduct investigation. No wonder Big Brother now a laughingstock for its ironically Orwellian behaviour.
Steve was Savannah's name before she transitioned, so you repeatedly dead-named her. Do you understand how both your language and behaviour could be offensive to Savannah, your housemates, and the viewing public?
Oh my God.
Also coming up on the show today, Jeremy Clarkson is one step closer to becoming Britain's Donald Trump as he threatens to unseat the hard-left Labour Environment Secretary Ed Mad Miliband at the next election. And Sarah White, Reform UK's activist pink lady who was shockingly arrested for unfurling the Union Jack during a protest in Epping, defects to Ben Habib's Advance UK. She's going to join us live to reveal why. Then, in the uncancelled after show on Substack, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry living separate lives in New York after a disastrous weekend for the fake royals with shock new claims about the fallout from the Duchess's Paris stunt. We'll team up with the Royal News Network for the latest. That is over on Substack after the main show. You can register to watch at www.outspoken.live. We'll also reveal a brand new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass, the first of the week. Here are the nominees for the worst Britain in the world today. You can vote in the live chat on YouTube. Jeevan Sander, nominated by English Pat79 for calling on the UK to take the British flags down since it makes migrants uneasy. Tony Blair, nominated by Kat Brown. She describes him as Satan. And Ed Miliband, nominated by Blame Game, who says Labour are bankrupting the country for net zero, and Gromit is fiddling the figures. So lots to get to today, huge amount of breaking news. Do keep your feedback coming on. And of course, later in the show, that exclusive interview with George Gilbert. What did he say in the Big Brother house to get him booted? But now, let's go. The UK deep state and police have shamed themselves today in Tommy Robinson's terror trial at the Westminster Magistrates Court. A complete and utter farce, a political prosecution, a case designed to drive the man out of the country for good, and a genuine concern for fading democracy in Britain. So let's just think about this for 1 minute, right? There is currently an unabated invasion of the UK via our southern border, with hundreds and hundreds of terrorists and rapists and murderers flooding the country every damn day across the channel and in lorries. Nothing's done about it by the cops. But a bloke driving a nice car to Benidorm is stopped at the border for absolutely no reason whatsoever, and then cops demand the PIN to his phone, where he is expected to reveal deeply private and protected journalistic communications. And by the way, if he doesn't, which he didn't, he'll be charged for terror offences under the 2000 Terror Act. This is a stitch-up. Pure and simple, yet it's what happened in court today. But the British mainstream media, which is terrified of Tommy Robinson, will not even question this disgusting process. Well, I will. Because what's happened to Tommy in this case is truly dystopian and downright chilling, actually. Thankfully, Elon Musk has supported him by legally defending the case. And that means he can tell the world about it too. So here's what Tommy told Lauren Lunn Farrow for Outspoken about the support of the ex-boss during a break from court earlier.
Ezra, can you tell Outspoken viewers up there what's been going on?
Well, there's been, I think, 4 police who have testified so far. Not one of them has had what in America or Canada we would call, reasonable grounds or reasonable cause to pull Tommy over. They all said they just basically knew.
So we are outside of court. We've been in all morning. Tommy, tell Outspoken viewers what's going on.
What's going on is I'm about to get acquitted, right? I've called it early, right? I'm about to get found not guilty. This is going to age really well or really bad, right? You're even watching this and I'm in jail, or you're watching it and I'm at home laughing. But am I laughing? Should I be laughing? No, this has cost an absolute fortune. Very grateful that Elon Musk has picked up the bill for this case after reading the case. We sent him it and his lawyers were as shocked as we are that someone can be detained because of who they are. It's come out in court today that the officer, from me getting to the desk, handing in my passport and then me being detained for terrorism legislation, was 34 seconds. So he says in his statement that I acted suspiciously, didn't answer his questions, and then he doesn't say what questions he asked, and then there was one question he asked: where are you going to? I said Benidorm, pull over there. You're detained under the Terrorism Act. So it's just a farcical. It's a farcical of the law, it's an abuse of the law. But even if I am acquitted, by the time you're watching this, they win anyway, don't they? Because and how much more of this is going to be allowed to happen? The last time I was at this court, I was acquitted, and that was for when I went to report on the anti-Semitism rally in London, and I was held twice, nicked twice on the same charge, and banned from my capital city for 6 months, and I never got any money back for that, and it cost £50,000.
And so while you're here being penalised, legislation, there are still grooming gangs at large around the country. No, 5 months in, Jess Phillips.
Jess Phillips, there's still people flying terrorist flags and supporting terrorist organisations every week. Do you know what I mean? Still now, there's still supporters of Hamas parading around our country. So, and it's the same court. I think this judge kicked out the terrorism charge against Kneecap for supporting Hamas. So let's see, man. But Dan, how are you, son?
Well, Patriots are behind Tommy, and we will see what happens later on this afternoon.
Sorry, I just walked around in front of you.
But as he was getting ready this morning, Tommy shockingly revealed that not a single mainstream media journalist has spoken up about the charges against him.
Just imagine I'm facing terrorism charges under terrorism legislation because I didn't want to give the state my sources of information. as a journalist. And not one single journalist has commented on that in the UK. Do I look tired? I feel tired. I'm ready for court, and I really need to get full English just to pick me up that little bit. And then I'll start the actual, either a tuna diet tomorrow or healthy eating, because I just keep saying tomorrow. It was meant to be 3 weeks ago, but anyway.
And something that so many people have missed in the coverage of this case is that there was a very good reason why Tommy Robinson refused to hand out his PIN number. He explained this en route to court this morning.
Let me just give you one example of why I didn't give them access to my phone. So one survivor, during my investigations to speak about sexual exploitation of children and the rape, the Islamic grooming gangs, one survivor sat me down, cameras on, and she said, what I'm about to tell you now, Tommy, never leaves you, okay? And we're recording. I said, we're recording. She goes, I just want you, it never leaves you. I'm just telling you this. I said, okay. And then she divulged certain information to me which I was totally unaware of about something else, which shocked me, yeah? But I gave her my word as a source of my information that would never leave me. Now, the police then want access to everything, yeah? And what I explained to the police is, in Telford, in Rotherham, in Rochdale, in Oldham, you, the police, were working with the gangs, hiding it for the gangs. You were getting rid of evidence. So, for example, young girls brought their clothes in after being raped with the men's semen on. They handed it in, gave statements. The underwear with the semen on went missing. All the evidence was gone. Yeah? This is fact. This is what the police were doing. So I said, so when I got interviewed, I said, you want me to give you access to this, that then gets put into a system that you and all your bent Muslim police officers or whatever police officers that are working with the gangs around the country have access to, but from survivors that have been failed by the police, the courts, everyone's failed them, and I've refused to fail them. I refuse to let you have access to this. I'm not giving you it. And for not giving them that is what I face prison for today. Yeah? But I've said to the girl, and she's been messaging me for weeks anyway. She's worried. I said I didn't give them access, but she's given a statement just to say that I gave all of these girls my word on certain things, and I shouldn't have to divulge my sources of information to the British state, which is what they want.
No, you should not. You should not have to do that in a free society. So when he arrived at court, Tommy quite rightly contrasted his treatment with that of the Southport Islamist terrorist Axel Rudakabana.
So Tommy, good morning, sir. So you're appearing at Westminster Magistrates Court today, charged with terrorism. What's your assessment on this trumped-up charge?
My assessment is that Axel Rudakabana, the government failed to call him a terrorist. The police went out of their way to not label him a terrorist. He was found with an Al-Qaeda manual, hence a terrorist. He was found with ricin, hence a terrorist. The police hid all of those things, and the media, these lot, deemed him a Welsh choir boy. Yeah? That's what happened. Rather today, I have been purposely held under terrorism legislation. They will make a massive deal out of the fact that I'm being charged under terrorism legislation because I, as a journalist, refuse to give the state access to what's on my phone. Because I'm a journalist, because there are sources of information in here. We have witness statements today from sexual abuse and rape survivors who have confined that they didn't trust the authorities, they don't trust the police. When they gave me certain information, it's because they trusted me and they did not want the authorities to have access to it. The reason they didn't want the authorities to have access to it is because in Rotherham, in Rochdale, in Oldham, in all these cities, do you know what the police did? Girls went in with their knickers after being raped with DNA on them, and the police got rid of the evidence. In every city, the police worked with the gangs, the government, the state, the authorities worked with the Islamic gangs to hide the crimes. Why would I give access to those same corrupt officials, access to the people who give me information? I have lots of information on my next documentary, which I'm still yet to finish because of all this bullshit, but my next documentary, which is Labour's Islamic rape gangs, and they want to know what I've got. You will hear today everything they question me about under the Terrorism Act. None of it makes sense because none of it's to do with terrorism. It's all to do with my legal, lawful activities. Every one of these journalists should be outraged at what they're doing and outraged at this illegal behaviour. This is state persecution. I'm very grateful to the United States. I'm very grateful to Elon Musk for helping me fight against this.
I mean, the whole thing is insane, right? Completely insane. Especially given that when the police first arrested Tommy, they even told him, don't worry, we know you're not a terrorist.
last year.
The first word to the officer was, we're detaining you under Terrorism Act. I then went, under the fucking Terrorism Act? He went, Tommy, don't worry, we know you're not a terrorist. So what are you doing then?
Yes.
What are you doing then? Did the British public want terrorism legislation to be used against journalists? Or do you want it used against active
So
critical
do you believe that the system is misusing the terrorism legislation?
No, for the last 15 years, the system, this and the police are a tool and a weapon of a totalitarian state. A totalitarian state doesn't like criticism. Keir Starmer doesn't like criticism. The Labour government don't like criticism. None of them like criticism, so they use this. This is the process, is the punishment. I've been under this. How many times do I keep being arrested? How many times am I in court? How much does it cost? The cost to today is insane again to fight this. I'm just grateful I'm still in the fight. So.
And of course, the worst outcome is that Tommy finds himself locked up again.
What is the worst possible outcome of this trial today and tomorrow?
I'll be eating tuna for a few months. And I've put on a bit of weight, so it ain't all that bad. I need to lose a bit of weight.
Now, as the prosecution opened its case in court this morning, it became immediately clear that things were even worse than Tommy had made out. This was a hit job on him, pure and simple. The prosecutor, Jo Morris, she told the court a silver Bentley drove into the outbound lane. Mr. Lennon was the driver. He handed over his passport for inspection. The officer inquired as to the reason for Mr. Lennon's travel and became concerned about his demeanour. You will hear the officer describe that Mr. Lennon gave short, vague replies. He had purchased this ticket on arrival at port rather than the advanced booking system and was driving a high-value vehicle. So far, so what? Certainly nothing criminal. She then admitted the officer was aware of Tommy's, quote, notoriety, and that police were able to conduct searches based on anything unusual that could point to, quote, possible current or future terrorist activity. I mean, what a joke. What the hell is there terror-related about the Unite the Kingdom rallies? But PC Mitchell Thorogood told the court he had stopped the car because it was unusual and he was travelling a far distance, but also admitted before he stopped the vehicle, he had a belief that it was Tommy in the car. Ezra Levant, the brilliant founder of Rebel News, reports from court for Outspoken.
Tommy Robinson pulls up in his car. They saw him. They recognized him, so they pounced. And when they were pressed by Tommy's lawyer, Alistair Williamson, KC, well, what did you ask him? Why did you pull him over? They said they pulled him over because he was by himself. Oh, is that a mark of a terrorist? That he was driving someone else's car with their permission, and that he bought his ticket on the day. And that is the sum total of indicia, of reasons why they thought he might be a terrorist. I'm not kidding. And then he pressed the cops, well, what did you ask him? So you had a bogus, like basically they were celebrity gawking, but they hated Tommy Robinson, so they detained him. And then Alistair Williamson says, well, what did you ask? Did you ask anything about terrorist activity or terrorist plans, or was it just political and journalistic chit-chat? In the words of Williamson, things you could simply Google online to find out. And it was the latter, things you could Google online. So because they recognized Tommy, because they knew he's an enemy of the regime, because they knew they had this massive power of Schedule 7 in the Terrorist Act, they detained Tommy Robinson for 6 hours, then humiliated him, put him through the stress and the cost of this whole thing. And I would say, based on what I've seen so far, that Tommy will be acquitted. In fact, the case should be dropped immediately, but like I say, he's public enemy number one. It's my estimate that the British government has spent $25 million policing, investigating, prosecuting, convicting, sentencing Tommy Robinson. I mean, they're not done. They'll never be done with him. They want to defeat him. They see his power is growing, as you saw in the huge September 13th rally. Tommy Robinson is public enemy number one. The government of Keir Starmer is putting more resources into getting Tommy Robinson than into investigating 2 generations of rape gangs in the UK. That's the only reason I'm worried. This is a bogus case. The prosecutor knows it, and by God, those cops know it. But because it's Tommy Robinson, all bets are off. That's my halftime update outside the Westminster Magistrates Court.
Brilliant reporting from Ezra. Now, the prosecutor revealed that more than £13,000 and €1,900 had been seized, and his phone was seized too. Tommy made it clear, and even the prosecution admitted this, that he would cooperate with officers. He even complied with the biometrics and photographs and a ludicrous of 6 hours worth of questioning. But for journalism purposes, he was not going to give out his PIN number, given some victims of grooming gangs had provided him information on corrupt police officers. And by the way, I never would either. Tommy told the officers, and these were his exact words quoted in court today. Not being funny, but in every one of those grooming gangs, you lot were working on them. So the girls, you know, you were going to charge me for a terrorist offence. I'm not going to give you my PIN code, so you were going to charge me under the Terrorism Act. Every previous investigation, Rotherham, Telford and Manchester, there have now been proven police cover-ups. I do not trust the police, and girls don't. That's why they talk to me. Tommy was given a hero's welcome after leaving court following those revelations in the morning session. But he was furious about what had transpired in court.
We've heard the police's cross-examination where it turned out that they took 34 seconds to determine I was going to be detained under Terrorism Act. 34 seconds where they're meant to take time to question you about things. They didn't question me, they just saw my face and automatically made the decision they were going to detain me. That's what's come out under the officer's evidence. What also come out is his reasoning for detaining me was I bought my ticket at the dock and I was driving a friend's car. And then questioned one of the reasons, and it was suspicious I was driving to the south of Spain. Now, they took 40 minutes to question partner agencies. Nothing come back suspicious against me. Nothing that backed up I should be detained. When questioned, did he check my previous travel? I leave this country every other week. I don't live in the UK. I live in the south of Spain. So that would have determined that nothing I was doing was suspicious. But the police officer had to have a break. He looked like he was about to faint because it came out that he absolutely did not follow his protocol, did not follow the law. This is a total abuse of the legal system. It's an attack against me based on my political view, nothing else. There was no suspicion of terrorism, no suspicion of a crime, simply the fact that I was Tommy Robinson. And I'm now in court for being Tommy Robinson, not for being a terrorist.
Where are we?
Indeed, Tommy went on to brand the entire case a farce.
It's an absolute farce. The entire case is a farce. How the hell I'm here? If it wasn't for Elon Musk, I'd have another massive bill. The only terrorism that's being committed is financial terrorism, and it's waged against me. Because every one of these cases costs 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 or even £100,000, yeah? And it shouldn't be happening, it shouldn't be allowed to happen. This is the second time now in 7 months, on my last case, where it was proven that the police acted unlawfully, detained me unlawfully, arrested me unlawfully, without powers to do so, and give me unlawful bail conditions. That's what happened here last time I was in this court. I hope the same happens again today. But if it does happen today, what the fuck is going to be done about it? Because it's an absolute liberty that this continues to happen. For the last 15 years, I haven't had a peaceful moment where I haven't faced these prosecutions. It's not right, yeah?
Indeed, I agree. It's a farce. But Tommy is being treated as an enemy of the state by Slippery Starmer's Socialist Labour government, and they intend to punish him. I mean, remember, there was no jury today. He is being judged solely by a state-appointed judge who decided to drag this farce into a second day tomorrow. Now, on leaving court in the past hour, a furious Tommy revealed that both Ezra Levant and Lauren Lunn Farrow, as well as other independent journalists, had been banned from reporting the case from the courtroom.
Coming out of the court, what has happened?
Only accredited journalists, when they say accredited, only government-supported journalists were allowed to report on the second half of the trial, which means no one, I guess, out here, because you're not going to hear it from the mainstream media, because I've looked through the mainstream media's reporting on the case this morning. It's insane. It's fucking insane. All the unlawful stuff they've done, all the illegal stuff they've done, and not one part of it has been reported on. It's mad, which is a need for people like Ezra and other people who have flown over from Canada to come and report on this. Unfortunately, he's been gagged today from when we went back in. No one else other than the government control, which, what is that? That's communism, no? Only government-controlled media are allowed to report on what's going on inside the courtroom. And it's meant to be about fair and open justice for people to understand. The reason why we need citizen journalists is because these fucking frauds don't report. We've seen that by the reporting this morning. We've seen that. We're nicking you for terrorism. We're using terrorism legislation to detain you and pump around the whole world that you're being charged under the Terrorism Act. You better make sure your shit's in order. And none of it's in order. The reason for detaining me wasn't in order. They just made it up as they went along. What we then found out is they made up stuff today that's not in their statements. Do you know how many times we've asked them for disclosure and they've refused it? So we've gone back saying, what did you do for an hour and a half? Because they detained me, there was a 40-minute gap, then there's another hour and a half gap. What were you doing in that time? From stopping me originally, what was going on? We know what was going on. It was going up the ladder to the top, yeah? And they were making decisions. But they didn't make any notice, and even though we asked them, what were you doing? They refused to answer. And then today, we were taking information from other organisations. Well, we've asked you that multiple times. You have to give us disclosure, which they haven't give. They didn't give. So now there's been another application to make the judge aware. We've asked all this information, then they've brought shit up today in court where there's no evidence of it, there's no paperwork trail, there's no email trail, there's nothing. And then he started making up, do you know what his reason was? Islamophobia. Islamophobia. What even is Islamophobia? They're taking it from the Labour government's Islamophobia bill. You talk about Islam, we're going to nick you under terrorism. That's it. Anyway.
I'm back tomorrow.
I'm back tomorrow for the verdict.
Okay, then we get to one of the most extraordinary moments I have ever seen outside a court. Tommy, and credit to him for this, decided to take on directly the British Bashing Corporation's Daniel Sanford. He was the reporter and presenter inside the court who had lobbied for that gagging order on independent reporters.
I will finish today, Tommy.
Yeah, turn the camera around for a sec.
Love you, Tommy.
You're a member of the press. You was in there today. Sorry, Wendell. You're a member of the press. You was in there today. Can I ask you, what did you think of the fact? What did you think of the fact?
It's contempt to talk about a court case while it's ongoing.
No, it's not. There's no jury. That's only for juries. There's not contempt. That's a lie. That's a lie. No, you're a member of the press.
I can't discuss.
Well, I've looked at your reporting today. I've looked at your reporting. I've looked at your reporting. I've looked at your reporting today. Yeah? Why don't you tell the truth? Why don't you tell the truth about what happened in court today?
Mainstream media are dead. Tommy, the mainstream media are dead.
And Tommy then explained why he'd just turned the camera on the BBC.
Why don't you tell the truth? You see, that's the media. Where's
I'm here. So they're running away from you.
That's the mainstream media, yeah? He is sat in that court case. We'll see what verdict we get tomorrow. Not one of them has reported any of the unlawful stuff the police have done. And then, do you know what? He went to the judge. He went to the judge to make sure Ezra would stop reporting. He did. He was the grass. He went as a member of the press to point out that he's sitting in the public gallery and he's reporting on this case. To prevent him reporting so that the only narrative you get is from them.
Just extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. But a lot of the mainstream media coverage was appalling. Look at this headline. From GB News, my former employer. Tommy Robinson refused police request to provide mobile phone PIN in order to protect journalistic material. He didn't refuse any reasonable request. That is the wrong angle from the court. And GB News should be concerned about what's really happening. Politically, as is often becoming the case, only Advance UK leader Ben Habib had the balls to stand up against this show trial, although he called out both Reform UK and the Conservatives to speak out too. Posting on X, Tommy Robinson was stopped under terrorism legislation, even though the police knew he wasn't a terrorist. This was political persecution, plain and simple. Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage, will you denounce this abuse of power or stay silent while Britain slides into authoritarianism? It matters not what Farage and Kemi Badenoch think of Tommy Robinson. This is a clear example of a politicised criminal justice system targeting a British citizen. If either Farage or Badenoch think themselves worthy of being Prime Minister, they must put principle ahead of social sensibilities, do the right thing, and call this out. And we must all call this out. And I call this out today because democracy is on the line. Now, let's cross live to to the Westminster Magistrates Court. And joining me, two of the brilliant independent journalists who were gagged in court today in this most extraordinary showdown between the BBC and the judge. Lauren Lunn Farrow of the Insider YouTube page, who has been at court reporting today both for Outspoken and Urban Scoop, and Ezra Levant, the brilliant founder of Rebel News, who flew all the way from Canada overnight because he simply doesn't trust our mainstream media to tell the truth. And Ezra, you were proven right, because the BBC managed to gag you inside the court. What happened? This is nuts.
It's actually the third time the BBC has done this to me. Once they actually complained about my tweeting to the Metropolitan Police, who opened an investigation and later dropped it. On another occasion at the Royal Courts of Justice, the BBC interrupted a trial, sent a note to the judge saying my tweets were inappropriate. Again, the judge threw it out. Now, the judge today, when he got this complaint from the BBC, said that tomorrow morning, first thing at 10 a.m., I'll have a chance to make my case to the judge that I should be allowed to live tweet from court. Now, Dan, you know me. I've reported from the Old Bailey, Royal Courts of Justice, courts all over the UK, including Luton and Peterborough. My point is, I have done an enormous amount of court reporting. I know the rules. I'm a former lawyer myself. This is simply the BBC trying to silence the other side of the story. And I checked my Twitter impressions, and I know it's not as big as yours, but this morning I got 7 million views and impressions on my tweets, which tells me people are hungry for the other side of the story. And I'm a fast typist, so I can give lots of updates. The BBC was checking my tweets and was getting more and more frustrated that I was getting more action than them. This was rivalry, both business rivalry, commercial rivalry, and ideological rivalry, and it was a bit of snobbery. I got to tell you, Dan, in Canada and the United States and many places around the world, there is no such thing as journalistic licensing. It's not a thing in free countries, and I'm worried that the BBC might be able to convince this court to silence alternative voices. Tommy was right. Right now, only government voices are allowed to tell you the story from inside the court.
It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Lauren, tell me what happened outside the court. We saw some of that extraordinary exchange, that clash, when Tommy Robinson demanded that the cameras were turned on Daniel Sanford of the BBC. And did he end up running away? Lauren, just talk to me, because you're right there.
Yeah, so when that happened, he looked very, very shady. And obviously he was surrounded by people asking him questions. And he was saying, I can't discuss this. It's contempt of court. Well, it's not, because there's not a jury. So that's just absolutely false. And he scuttled off straight away. But do you know what was so interesting is I was the first person at the other side of the door. So when Tommy was coming out, there was a circle or a semicircle of all the independent journalists and the mainstream media. And the people that were causing problems were, you guessed it, the mainstream media. There was elbowing, there was grunting, there was a real attitude, because we know that their narrative is already set. And it just blows my mind that they even bother coming, because they aren't going to report it. You know, we've seen them miss out key information if they've even reported it at all. And they're here to get a picture that suits their narrative. And none of them will report on the BBC journalist that, you know, had Ezra and myself and other people gagged. And I think it's also really important to flag, there seems to me to be a real prejudice against independent journalists. And I was asked 4 times for my press pass, and I was sat in the gallery. I hadn't moved the whole time, and they kept asking me for it. And I thought, I'm still the same person. I'm still sat here. I'm still going to show you the same pass, because we cannot be controlled. All we want to do is report the truth. That's all.
100%. 100%. And there's a lot of people who are simply not realizing quite how dystopian, quite how disturbing this evidence is today, Ezra. Now, we saw Tommy telling Outspoken earlier that he feels very confident he's going to be acquitted. Okay, let's see. But the point is, any of us who are working as either independent journalists or activists should not be concerned that when leaving our country totally legally, when we've done absolutely nothing wrong, that there's a possibility that we're going to be stopped by the police, that our phone is going to be seized, that they are going to demand our PIN code. And Ezra, you can understand why for Brits this is particularly galling at a time that there is an invasion via our southern border where undocumented terrorists, murderers, and rapists are allowed to enter the country with no documentation every single damn day. But I'm sorry, after I heard that evidence today, Ezra, I have a real suspicion, and people can call me a conspiracist if they want, but I have a real suspicion that this was a planned hit job on Tommy Robinson. Because how on earth did PC Thorogood, Ezra, know that this car happened to contain Tommy Robinson unless he had been tipped off in some way? Having heard all of the evidence yourself, Ezra, what's your understanding about that?
I think I have a slightly different theory, Dan. I think that these young cops, they were all fairly young, so they would be on social media. I think they saw Tommy Robinson. First of all, it was a fancy car. Tommy was driving, so the cops would take a look. And I think it was almost like a celebrity spotting for them. Oh my gosh, that's Tommy Robinson. So I think they would have known who he was, and they would have looked because he was driving a friend's nice car. And I think the first cop realized that something fell into his hands, a political hot potato, and he thought, well, I'm going to check with the higher ups. And we heard about the 40-minute gap and the 90-minute gap when they were calling all over trying to find something to pin on Tommy. So I actually don't think it was a setup. I think it was sort of some cops that fell into their lap, and other cops said, we will take good advantage of this. What was incredible, and I heard in your broadcast, Tommy mentioned it, they made it took them 30 seconds to determine that he needed to be investigated for terrorism, and yet they were never able to substantiate that in any way. I think they just took the liberty. And this feature of the Terrorism Act, I call it the ticking time bomb feature. Let's say someone is a mastermind of a terrorism attack and a bomb is about to go off. Maybe you need to compel them to answer questions. As you know, Schedule 7 of the Act, you do not have the right to remain silent. You have to give the PIN password to your cell phone. You have to give them access to your devices. I can see how in the war on terror that could be useful, very rarely, very carefully. Imagine taking that special law and applying it just to some political dissident, just some critic of Keir Starmer. And that's what's so terrifying, is that it's just so nonchalant that the government of the UK will use terrorism measures to go after a critic. And, you know, it's not just well-known people like Tommy. As you know, 30 people a day in this country are arrested, and often the police go to their homes at 10 at night, at midnight, to shock and awe the family, to cause distress in the family, make the kids cry, maybe stress out a marriage. The government of the UK is weaponizing its laws against not terrorists, they actually let terrorists go, but against critics, peaceful critics. I find it disturbing, and I say this as an Anglophile.
Axel Rudicabana isn't a terrorist, but Tommy Robinson is. What an absolute joke. And actually, Ezra, I just wanted to pick up on one thing that I heard you broadcast earlier in the day in your absolutely incredible coverage for Rebel News. You suggested that if Tommy Robinson were to be imprisoned right now, potentially as early as tomorrow, this would actually be a very good thing for slippery Starmer and the Labour government, because of course it would stop Tommy Robinson's official visit to Israel.
That's right. There's a diplomatic tit for tat going on. Keir Starmer endorsed an independent Palestine, in many people's eyes, rewarding Hamas. So Israel, and you could say it's a tit for tat, they gave an official invitation to Tommy. It's not just a tourist invitation. Cabinet minister said, hey, Tommy, come for a special government visit. Keir Starmer was appalled because ever since the September 13th rally, Keir Starmer is pulling his hair out over Tommy. So wouldn't it be something if you had another tit for tat in this diplomatic war, if they jailed Tommy to scupper his trip? And, you know, the laws are not meant to be playthings like this. Government is not supposed to carry out vendettas, especially through the criminal law. But I think we've all seen enough to know that does happen sometimes. And my one worry, Dan, is, I mean, I don't know this judge, and we've got to take him at face value that he's being fair. But there are a lot of ideological judges, and we've seen some insane sentences, Lucy Connolly being one of the worst. So I am afraid that Tommy Robinson cannot find fair justice in the UK. Boy, I hope I'm wrong, Dan.
And Lauren Lunn Farrow, you've spent a lot of time today with Tommy. He obviously expected this to only last for the day. So clearly he'll already be very disappointed, very frustrated that he's having to come back tomorrow. But what is his state of mind, and what are we expecting to happen in court tomorrow? I imagine that the judge has not committed at this point to definitely giving his verdict, because of course there is the possibility that he could decide to deliver the verdict at a later date, which just extends the trauma and the hell even more.
So there was talk about closing arguments tomorrow, but to be honest, where we were sat in the gallery, it was so hard to hear. We asked probably 4 or 5 times for the volume to be put up. We were all struggling to hear what was going on. You may say that was by design. I may agree with you, but Tommy's outlook, I think it's like everything. He takes it one day at a time. I mean, the man has more resilience than anyone I've ever met. I don't know how he does it, but I think he looked genuinely exhausted. This is exhausting, even covering it, the level of anger you feel and the injustice you feel. And it's not even us standing up there, you know, and I think he understands that this could be you, Dan, it could be me, it could be Ezra. This is absolutely chilling what is going on. And I think Tommy is of the opinion as well that at least this is drawing people's attention to the 2-tier policing and the 2-tier justice system, because obviously he'd rather not be, you know, in court, but it's all eyes on this now. Elon Musk is paying his legal fees. You know, Ezra is a huge supporter of him. People's, you know, the movement is not getting smaller. And so we will use this and we will continue to amplify the truth, because all independent journalists like Tommy want is just the full narrative to be out there. And that's the narrative the mainstream media will never run. So tomorrow we're back in court. Do I think that the right verdict will be delivered? I have no faith in this judiciary system or the police, and I'd love to come on and be proved wrong.
God, I really hope you're proven wrong too. Ezra Levant, what is your prediction as to what happens tomorrow? Tommy's saying he believes he will be acquitted.
The case for the government is so weak. There are so many procedural errors, so many substantive errors. The witnesses, especially the first cop, who made a 30-second investigation before saying, oh, we got a terrorist on our hands. I think the witness was so terrible, and he was drinking water. He drank a whole pitcher of water in the short span of his testimony. I mean, I wish I could play poker against a guy like that with that many poker tells. So if this were, I think Tommy is going to squeak it out. He did have good luck in this courtroom once before. Can I say one thing that the kids would say is a white pill moment for me?
Please.
As in something that gives me a little bit of hope. You know, I've been covering Tommy's trials for almost 10 years. He actually used to work for Rebel News way back in the day, and he was
I remember
that. And back then, we were pretty much the only citizen journalist. Maybe there was 1 or 2 others. But today, when I came out of the court, I thought, who is everybody? Even if 5 of them were the regime media, there were so many citizen journalists, some with very sophisticated gear. And of course, Dan, you're king of the independent journalists with the enormous YouTube following. That gives me hope, because even though we were censored today, it's the genie's out of the bottle.
Well, they can't censor you here. That is the point.
Right.
They cannot gag you here. They can gag you in court, but they cannot gag you on Outspoken. I totally agree, Ezra. This is a revolution. You have been such a big part of it. We are so grateful for everything that Rebel News has done because, of course, you've got so many issues back in Canada, but you continue to return here to fight for us. But, of course, today we did also see young Bob. We saw Jack Hadders. You know, there are brilliant independent journalists who are
New
taking
generation.
the fight. Absolutely.
Yeah, the new
and
generation,
of course,
they're great.
the woman next to you as well, Lauren the Insider, who is becoming such a star of the independent space. So look, I really appreciate your coverage. It is this coverage that I can trust because even the Daily Telegraph reporting on this, I mean, it's meant to be a right-wing newspaper. Even the GB News coverage of the state, meant to be a right-wing broadcaster, was so off base. So thank you both for doing God's work in court. And of course, we will be back tomorrow with the only coverage of the Tommy Terror trial that you can trust. That is Ezra Levant, the founder of the brilliant Rebel News, and Lauren Lunn Farrow of the YouTube channel The Insider. Thank you both so much. Now, of course, lots coming up on Outspoken today. Do not go away. As you know, there has been a major free speech row which has plunged Woke ITV's Big Brother into a huge amount of trouble. George Gilbert, the Nigel Farage and Reform UK supporting candidate, booted out of the house for God knows what. We don't even know for what. But the great news is he is launching his own YouTube channel today, and he is going to be here very, very shortly to give his first interview where he will reveal what was said in the house, which ITV claimed was so terrible that our little ears couldn't cope with it. So do stand by that exclusive first interview with Big Brother's axed George Gilbert coming up. But first, The Outsider. Breaking today, it's happening, folks. Jeremy Clarkson is going to become Britain's own Donald Trump. I can feel it in my bones. You know, for such a long time, I've been speaking with so many of my friends and saying, there must be that populist, charismatic leader who is going to take back Britain. Maybe, just maybe, we've found him on Clarkson's farm, because the Top Gear host has overnight suggested that he will run for Parliament. And what makes this even sweeter is that it's going to be versus arguably one of the most dangerous men in the country, this goon, Mad Miliband. Clarkson posted on X, people of Doncaster North, are you happy with your MP? Would you like it if someone from your neck of the woods kicked him out? And of course, this sparked almost cross-party support. Rupert Lowe of Restore Britain immediately weighed in saying, I hope Clarkson stands. Zia Youssef, in 2 emojis, gave the support of Reform UK, even though it's possible that Jeremy Clarkson would actually stand for the Conservative Party. And Susan Hall of the Conservatives wrote, go for it, Jeremy, please. Perhaps this was my most favourite, though. Chris Rose writing, imagine Ed's face if he lost to Jeremy Clarkson. And trust me, if you've got any doubt, if you've even got a smither of doubt that Clarkson would lose to Ed Miliband, then just put it to one side. Because Britain is ripe for populist revolution. Clarkson could be the man to deliver it. And we are joined now by our very own patriotic rabble-rouser, who may well be a political force in her own right come the next election, Sarah White, formerly of Reform UK. She has announced today that she will now be joining Ben Habib's Advance UK. So a huge political shake-up going on in a whole load of ways. And Sarah, I want to talk about that in just one moment. But this major breaking news, Jeremy Clarkson, who for a long time has said, no, you know, my health isn't good enough, and he was in hospital again recently. But I think, Sarah, he's just got this in him. He cannot watch the way that Labour are destroying the country and specifically going to war with farmers without getting involved.
Yeah, he would be the best man for the job because ultimately he knows what people in the real world want. He knows, he gets on ground level. He knows what the farming industry needs. How can somebody in their ivory tower impose policies on farmers when they have no idea how to run a farm? So the likes of Jeremy Clarkson would be perfect for the role. And if anyone ever votes Ed Miliband in again, I mean, God knows what's wrong with the country. So yeah, Clarkson all the way, 100%. Everyone should get behind him.
Do you think, Sarah, he needs to be party political? Or would it be possible, because, there's a lot of talk about uniting the right, and of course we'll come to that very shortly in terms of your decision to reflect from Reform to Advance UK. But actually, does it maybe need a figure like Clarkson, almost in the same way that Donald Trump engineered this reverse takeover of the Republican Party in the US?
Yeah, I think, I think he could definitely stand as an independent. He's, he's good enough for the job. And I think that basically all it comes down to, if he aligns himself with a party, he's going to align himself with a party that's on the right. So that would be good enough. But I think he would gain the votes even if he's just an independent. I don't think it really matters if you're wanting to stand in a certain area. And we know that he would only have the country's best interests at heart.
Sarah, you were arrested very recently for unfurling the Union Jack flag outside Epping Council. Watch this.
Look what they're doing! Look what the police are doing! What are they doing?
Now, this was such a disgusting moment, Sarah, but I remember having you on the show, and this is before you had appeared at the Tommy Robinson Unite the Kingdom rally or anything like that, and I just pondered, will Reform UK really stand by you? Because while I love everything that you're doing, and I think you absolutely have the public on your side, Reform UK on so many issues have become a bit lily-livered, that they're moving to the left and they're not wanting firebrands. We've seen their description of Tommy Robinson supporters as that lot. This morning, you announced your official defection. You have quit Reform UK, you have let them know, and you are now officially a member of Ben Habib's Advance UK. Was that decision at all a result of the lack of support that Reform UK gave you after your arrest, or is there something else going on?
You know what, for me, for a while now, even prior to my arrest, and there's an interview that I done with Martin Gauci, which was probably about a month before my arrest now, and he hasn't released that yet. But even then, I was saying that my views don't necessarily align fully with Reform, and that's okay because you can be in a party and not fully agree with every single policy. However, it became more apparent the more time that went on that, I just wasn't aligning myself with Reform. And I respect what Tommy Robinson has done. And I do believe that the moment I stepped out onto Tommy's stage, I signed my death warrant. And Reform haven't been in touch. They haven't wrapped a blanket around me and used me in a way, because I have gained public interest quite a lot recently because of the things I've done. And maybe you could call me more of an activist rather than a candidate to become a councillor. And Reform could have used that. However, I wouldn't have stayed anyway, because I really felt that Advance UK was the way forward for me. And I believe in what they stand for. And at the end of the day, like I said in my speech, I would never, ever try to push or persuade anybody to join any political party. Everyone has to make their own mind up, and that's what I done. And if I don't stand by my beliefs, then I'm not being true to myself.
No, indeed. And what I think is a shame is that, as you say, there was an opportunity for Reform to wrap their hands around you and say, look, we love what you're doing. And they didn't dump you. And I do give them credit for that, because they've dumped a lot of other people, but they could have done more. And let's be honest, the fact that you were arrested for unfurling the flag remains a great shame on our country. And I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, Sarah, but I was like, I've got to ask you about this because it's even gone viral in America when the account End Wokeness, which is one of the massive X accounts, posted Labour MP Jeevan Sander calls on the UK to take the British flags down since it makes migrants uneasy. And Ted Cruz, one of the big allies of Donald Trump in the US Senate, wrote, utterly tragic. A great nation with so many eager to surrender it entirely. And it's so sad because I can't disagree for one moment with what Ted Cruz said. And I found this video from Jeevan Sander actually chilling, even though he's trying to put on a nice smiley face. You can't put lipstick on a pig. He hates our country because he hates our flag. So I want to get your reaction, but in case you haven't seen this video yet, watch.
Painted on roundabouts, and that is just a bit weird. And because you've seen it online and I see it in my inbox, that this does make people feel uneasy. And they ask, what message are these flags supposed to be sending? Now look, I'll take people at their words. People who say this is about national pride. I'm proud of my country too, and I'm proud of our flag. But I do understand why others feel that it's about excluding people. Why others feel that it's about saying who belongs here and who doesn't. We're one British people. We're proud of our country. We should be standing together underneath our flag, not some of us looking up with unease. That's not the British way. Standing together, not standing apart. That's what being British is about. Unity, decency, determination, having a pint, a cup of tea, supporting the English football team, and sometimes they win. That's what being British is about. And that's why today I'll be asking the Reform County Council to take down the flags on the lampposts.
Now, I'm sorry, Jeevan Sander. Fuck you. Seriously, fuck you, mate. You don't say, oh, this is British and this is British, but take down our Union Jack. Seriously, I get so angry.
He should be ashamed of himself.
Yes.
And he should be held accountable, because at the end of the day, the position that he is in, he should be encouraging people and explaining that our national flag is something to be viewed and looked at with pride. And at the end of the day, whether you've come to this country as from another country, you should understand that where you come from, that flag was always flown with pride, and the flags of our country can be flown with pride. Now, when I was in Whitechapel the other night, isn't it funny that the only people that was offended by our national flag were the woke left-minded people, the people that actually come from that area? I went and spoke purposely to the people who are from that area, who are predominantly Muslim population, and I was talking to them and they went, we haven't got a problem with your flag. It's our flag. We are British. Our parents come here, our grandparents come here. And I was speaking to them, and I even had a guy that came here to this country 40 years ago, and he said, I am so proud that someone like yourself has got the courage to come to Whitechapel and stand up for us, because as far as I'm concerned, I've done everything legally. I've come here and I am proud to be British. So there is a certain number of people in this country that need to have a check of themselves and look and see why it is they feel uncomfortable with the flag. He feels uncomfortable with the flag, not everybody else. He is a disgrace to this country, and he should not be in the position that he is in.
Yeah, because too many people just accept now, don't they, Sarah? Oh, Whitechapel, yeah, it used to be our place. Now it's just a no-go zone where there's no English words up even on the official signs, like the entrance to the tube. And if you're a white person, you're not safe there. Why should we just accept it? But the problem is, Sarah, we have this elite class in this country, and they make me sick. They make me sick because I know these people and I know what they're like, and I know they don't live in the real world. And one of the great examples of that type of person is Richard Bacon. And he appeared on Newsnight, the BBC show Newsnight, and suggested that you were pretty much racist if you decided to put up a Union Jack flag outside your house. Now, as Callum rightly pointed out here, just talking about Richard Bacon, this man and his wife are multimillionaires who live in Los Angeles, in an area with a 0.2% black population. They have lived here for years. And that's the point, right? The only time you'll see Richard Bacon in the UK is if he's staying at a Soho house. So he has absolutely no idea about what we're all facing on the streets. But again, I'm sorry, but my absolute rage when I saw this appearance on Newsnight, because if you put up the Union Jack flag, I say you are a patriot, no matter what country you are. Richard Bacon says that what it means is that you want more white people in the country, just in case you missed it. And by the way, I pray to God that you were not putting yourself watching Newsnight on a Friday night. If you were, do something better with your life, please. But this is what happened.
I think it's about context. So right now it's a really sensitive subject. There are times when it's fine and it's celebratory, when Jerry Halliwell was wearing Union Jack pants in the late 90s. That was all fun and playful. Right now it's a very sensitive subject. I think right now, if you stick a pole and a Union Jack tomorrow outside your house, I think you're making a statement. And I think that statement is probably that you prefer Britain to be more white.
The context is being curated and invented by the identity politicians. That's the problem.
But that's quite a thing to say. If you put a flag in your garden, you're saying you want Britain to be more white.
I think you're making a statement right now. I think right now it's a sensitive subject, and I think to do it now, to get the pole and put the flag outside your house, right now, I think you are making a statement.
Alex?
No, because this is the point. This context, this myth that the flag is somehow racist, this whole idea that nationalism, I agree entirely with what you're saying.
No, I mean now.
The idea that nationalism is somehow toxic has been force-fed onto societies, and it doesn't sit happily with the ordinary person. And so, like I said, I'm quite thankful in this country that people are actually quite relaxed. I don't think it's ethno-nationalist. I don't think skin colour's got anything to do with it. Do I think it's nationalist? Yes. Do I think that being proud of your nation and identifying with your nation is a negative thing? No,
I don't think that either. I don't think that either.
And
I think
the context is what is curated, and that's what's awful.
I'm not saying it's always that. I'm just saying at certain times, when it's a very hot topic, in that context, I think you can be making a statement. Don't you think it can be provocative?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think ultimately we can't see in people's heads, right?
Yeah.
If your motivation is to do this because you're furious about immigrants and you're spray painting the Cross of George on roundabouts, it's not surprising that other people would think, well, that's probably the motivation.
But the people who think it's provocative are the ones who invented the rules that it is provocative. That is the point I'm trying to make. To the ordinary person, that is the national flag. And there's a whole host of people who have said, well, this means this and this means that, and that's divisive and that's racist.
St George's Cross on a roundabout.
People have always said, fine, go on then.
No, but people painting the St George's Cross on a roundabout, what do you think they're doing it for?
They're doing it because they're fed up with hearing other people say you cannot celebrate your national flag, and they're going to say, well, fine, if you invented laws that you're offended by this, go ahead, feel offended. Done. You've invented laws, you want to be offended, go be offended.
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry, that was painful. But Sarah, I felt like I wanted to provide the context because it shows you how the woke mind virus has just completely got into someone like Richard Bacon, and he's so out of touch now, and he's, I think, lost the plot. And I hate the fact that the BBC are even having this discussion, but we know they hate us and they hate our flag too.
You know what? In America, every single house flies their flag with pride. And for years now in this country, we have been told that our flag is something to be looked at, that it's a racist symbol. And it is true that everybody now has had enough. We're fed up. So that is why so many people now are flying their flag to go, you know what, like what Alex said, you know what, if you think it's racist, there you go. Stick that up in your pipe and smoke it, because at the end of the day, we should be allowed to fly our flag with pride. Look at the amount of people with Palestinian flags and Ukrainian flags in this country. We're not going to them, oh, you know, you're flying a Palestinian flag, that means we want more brown people in the country. No, it's about showing people like to fly flags. That is it. And we want to fly our national flag. And it's irrelevant of what colour you are, because we are a multicultural nation. We have people that have been here, their fifth generation potentially, that have come from, ancestral wise, they've come from another country. So they may be black or they might be Asian, you know. It's irrelevant of skin colour. It is to show that we are allowed to fly our flag and we should be proud of it. And that is the end of it. And someone like him to say that our flag at certain times, it's ridiculous. So are we going to take the flags down outside Buckingham Palace? Because apparently now they're a bunch of raving racists. It's ridiculous and it has got to stop. And people like him should be ashamed of himself.
They should. Sarah, some common sense from now a proud member of Advance UK. And do you think maybe you're considering running for them at some point? Because, of course, this is a political party, Advance UK.
You know what? I see myself as a bit of an activist, and I don't see myself as a councillor. I think that I was wasted as being as a councillor. I don't want to deal with potholes. My goal is to protect the country and to see this country become Great Britain again. And that's what I want. And I want everyone to be united, and I want everyone to feel safe and secure in this country. And I want to leave a better country for my children and the future generation. So, you know, I could see myself being a spokesperson for Advance. I wouldn't be a councillor. MP, maybe. We'll see.
Oh, exciting, exciting. Well, look, you know I adore you. The Outspoken audience adore you. And we will now not be able to say Reform, Sarah. We'll have to say Advance, Sarah. But so great to have you, Sarah White, now of Advance UK after defecting from Nigel Farage's Reform UK. Now, the uncancelled interview. It's pretty ironic, isn't it, when Big Brother, the TV show named after George Orwell, all of a sudden becomes so Orwellian that people are being booted off the show, having their lives ruined, having their careers ruined, for apparently saying something so terrible, but we're not allowed to know about it. We're not allowed to know what was said. And that is the lunacy that has been faced by this man, George Gilbert, who entered the Big Brother house and immediately became a target, I believe, of the woke broadcaster, of producers, and of his fellow housemates, because, shock horror, he might be a supporter of Nigel Farage. He might like some of the things that Reform UK do. And in the world of television, that basically means you're Adolf Hitler, right? So George was warned numerous times for wrongspeak, but on most of the occasions we had absolutely no idea of what he had actually said. Then, in one of the most farcical pieces of TV I have ever seen, Big Brother packed his suitcase overnight, dragged him out of bed in the early hours of the morning, and said he'd had a conversation about conspiracy theories that was so bad, that he was going to have to leave immediately. But here's the difference from when other Big Brother housemates have been booted out, be it Jade Goody over Shilpa Poppagot or Emily in the past for using the N-word. In this case, not only was Woke ITV not going to broadcast the conversation in question, they were also not going to tell us what was said. It really was the ultimate example of woke dystopian broadcasting. And it's had real consequences too. George Gilbert is now facing misconduct action from his parish council. So this could have serious implications for his career. And as the commentator Paul Joseph Watson wrote, the whole thing is a show trial to make TV normies believe these are extremist opinions when they're shared by the majority of the British public. So it is a great pleasure today to have George Gilbert with us on Outspoken as he launches his own YouTube channel, which is very exciting because that will be an opportunity for him to get his free speech back. But George, you know, I thought it was incredibly important. We've been speaking over the past couple of days for us to have an honest conversation about what you actually said in the House and for people to make their own judgments about whether you deserve to have your career and your life ruined as a result. Now, we've had an in-depth discussion about what was said, and my impression is that this was an intellectual conversation, a political conversation about international affairs, specifically what's been going on in Israel. But Woke ITV panicked, and they panicked and decided, shit, we've got to get this guy out. But I think it's really important, before we go back to those early examples, to talk about what was actually said and what the context was of the conversation that saw you booted from the house. Because I know you're very disturbed that the Sun has characterized what you said based on briefing, no doubt from someone within Big Brother or ITV, as anti-Semitic. Because you've insisted to me that you are absolutely not anti-Semitic. And actually, you are on the whole a supporter of Jewish people and a supporter of Israel. So please, the floor is now yours, George. What happened in that conversation that was so terrible that ITV couldn't broadcast it?
Well, Danny Boy, thank you very much for having me on here and giving me a voice again. It's needed. And yeah, I just want to thank you for having me on. First, though, on that previous segment, be careful what you say about Advance UK and reform, because if we do divide the right more, last thing we want is another left-wing party ruling the roost come the next election. So watch your words, all right? Now, on to Big Brother and why I was cancelled. Obviously, I was warned various times throughout the length of the show. I'm quite subversive by nature. I'll hold my hands up. But the reason why... So you want the straw that broke the camel's back already, yeah?
Yes, please. Because I think people are shocked that we don't actually know what you said that saw you removed from the house.
Yeah, well, this is it. Like, someone's leaked... Convenient, another game. Any publicity is good publicity. Someone's leaked that it was an anti-Semitic comment. And yes, I suppose it could be portrayed in that way, but I'll let you make your own minds up. The conversation started the night after a fellow housemate of mine, Caroline, made a transphobic comment for which she received a formal warning herself. That was quite below the belt, if you pardon the pun. And she was very upset that she made that comment. And I guess it was unacceptable. But as a result, the following day when I said my comment, or my fourth comment, there was a tense atmosphere in the house. No one really knew what they wanted to do with themselves. No one was starting conversations. Everyone was a bit flabbergasted from the night before. And there's a group of housemates in the house. They call themselves the Wolf Pack. It's just three lads. They like a laugh, and I get on with them well. And they were what's called as rage baiting me. They were firing me questions and asking for my opinion on different things, controversial things, and I've got an opinion on everything, so I never shy away from such conversations. We did dabble in the conspiracy theory realm, if you like. I was telling them about Scientology because I've dabbled in that myself. Not a Scientologist, but I'm curious. Everyone should be curious, shouldn't they? So I told them all about that, and then they were saying, "Oh, who built the pyramids? Has man ever been on the moon?" and all that jazz. I don't really have many opinions on conspiracy theories because we'll probably never know the truth. So why waste our time debating them? That's my stance. But someone mentioned Epstein. Obviously, the Epstein Island is probably the biggest conspiracy theory topic of this day and age. And I think, I don't have much evidence for this, so I'm very shallow in my beliefs, but I think it does line up that it was set to be a honey trap for prominent Western figures, such as Trump or Prince Andrew, for example. We don't know, innocent till proven guilty and all that. We don't know that they are guilty. But I thought a lot of people, from what I've heard recently, a lot of people are saying Israel are behind it. Now, again, innocent till proven guilty. It's not right to spread such messages. But I did say, as far as I know, there's allegations that Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, worked for Mossad, the Israeli version of the CIA, as I'm sure you're aware. So I said, unfortunately, that is feeding into the anti-Semitic trope of that we've been seeing a lot of recently. And that's also powered by the Israel-Palestine conflict. It's not good for the Jewish community, certainly in this country. So I said, I just want to make it clear, I haven't got an anti-Semitic bone in my body. I am very curious as an individual, and any theory out there or any movement must carry some weight or must leave some questions unanswered in order for them to stand up as a theory. Now, I then went on to say that many Jews in London, for instance, such as you've got big communities in Golders Green, as an example, some of them are fleeing this country because they're facing discrimination to the point where their stores are being vandalised, they're discriminated against here, there, everywhere. My heart goes out to all of them. And I think it's wrong. We need to stamp it out. And to do that, we need questions answered to root out any of these wrong anti-Semitic theories. But I then said, I do respect that people are skeptical of, the whole idea that Jews run the world. They're in control of the media. They're in charge of the banks, the money, this and that. I do see where people are coming from. And here's the line that got me, the straw that broke the camel's back. I said, some of the finest minds in human history, such as Cicero to Shakespeare, from Voltaire to Henry Ford, Roald Dahl, some of the most intellectual men ever, all held anti-Semitic tropes in their writings. Fact. Don't shoot the messenger. Now, does this mean that it's a case of no smoke without fire? Because, Shakespeare didn't write about Shylock in The Merchant of Venice for a laugh. All of these people are bloody intelligent. So did they have a point? I'm just putting the question out there because I want questions answered so I can fight the right battle and get behind anyone who is defending Jews, and I can hold my own in that argument, because at the moment I can't. There's questions that I feel can be answered. Now,
so you asked the question, is there no smoke without fire?
Yes, and that was unacceptable language. And okay, I could have used better words. Maybe my tone was off a bit, but at the end of the day, I'm a 23-year-old boy. I don't like blaming circumstances. I'm not giving excuses, but we live in a democracy, right? Now, one of the main pillars of a democracy is freedom of speech. That involves asking questions, even if they are a bit uncomfortable. Now, I was just asking questions, and the trouble is, I was pulled up on it because a lot of my fellow housemates, once I get going, I'm fired up. There's no stopping me. And it does come across like I'm preaching. And that's what I was caught out for, because I was told that as none of my housemates were given the counter argument or alternate perspectives, it did come across like I was lecturing them, and it didn't give that balanced perspective that the Big Brother brand is looking for.
And so
if my fellow housemates were more clued up, I'd probably still be in the house.
Well, so that's the irony. That's what I was going to say. So they basically blamed the off-communists, as I called them, that ended my mainstream TV career in the UK, because the off-communists have this rule that there has to be balance at all times. So what Big Brother was saying, if your fellow housemates had come in and said, I think that's a really terrible question, we shouldn't ask this, it would be okay.
Yeah, this is it. I was going full steam ahead and on and on and on. And do you know what, Dan? I think if you got each and every one of them housemates to come in the studio and you asked them, what was George kicked out for? I don't think any of them could have told you, because nothing I said in the moment felt wrong. And that's why I was so surprised to be called in the diary room at the crack of dawn to get booted out, because I was just asking questions, and I do see how I could have worded it better to be a bit more compassionate in what I was saying. But at the end of the day, it's not doing much to help root out anti-Semitism.
And you are absolutely clear that you are not anti-Semitic. Your natural proclivities lie with supporting Israel.
Correct. And it is all very well me saying that and then saying something that could be deemed as anti-Semitic. I get it. But as I've said, I think the Jewish community integrate into society better than many other religions or belief communities. I think they give back. They build things. They're bloody good with money as well. I think they're great people. And I say, come one, come all. But if people are anti-Semitic, I think the best way to put an end to that anti-Semitism is by asking questions and getting valid answers so that we can debunk these theories and flatten them for good.
I
That's
guess
my stance, and I think that's a very sensible stance to take, if I do say so myself.
The real issue that I have is that Woke ITV thinks that we are so stupid, right, that we can't handle that conversation. And I think it's actually pretty damning what they've done to you, because by not broadcasting the conversation, I imagine people are going to think that you have said something utterly appalling. I mean, they've actually said, this is not just so bad what you've said that we can't broadcast it. We can't even say what you've said in a statement. So that's what concerns me. It's this idea that some speech is so dangerous, some debates are so terrible that actually we can't even pretend that they've happened at all. And that's mad to me.
Yeah, well, I think we're all big enough and ugly enough to stomach these conversations. And as I say, I was trying to get to the root cause to defend the Jewish community. And that's what hurts me most. When they just leave it as anti-Semitic language, it looks like I was marching around Nazi saluting, shouting Heil, you know who.
But there was a conversation about Hitler, wasn't there, as well?
Yes, yes.
So can you talk me through that? Because that conversation was another conversation that, as a viewer, we had no idea had taken place whatsoever.
Correct. And I do just want to say ITV are just looking out for brand Big Brother and their own, brand ITV. And maybe I was just a bit too dangerous. But do you remember back in the day, in the noughties, when Big Brother was really interesting, really feisty? At the beginning of each episode, it just said, beware of flashing images and offensive language. Then you can say what you want. So I suggest we bring that back and let us be adults again.
Well, actually, Rye put up this post on X saying all ITV need to do is put a disclaimer before each episode and have it how it used to be. Easily offended, don't watch. Big Brother shouldn't have changed. Keep it raw or get rid. And there is the warning. Be prepared for flashing images and offensive language from the start and throughout, because that's the whole point of Big Brother. And we would be very naive if we were saying that in households up and down the country at the moment, there weren't heated debates that were taking place about Israel and Palestine. We would be naive to say those debates weren't taking place.
Nanny state, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But again, there was this other conversation that took place that involved Hitler. Now, I think that's important that we know what was said, because otherwise you risk ITV also briefing, oh, but he spoke about Hitler. And then immediately, again, that links to this idea that you must be anti-Semitic in some way.
Correct. So, yeah, I did want to touch on that. So, guess how long it took me to rack up my first verbal warning?
I shudder to think.
Day one. The very first day, I was called into the diary room, and they did warn me about numerous stuff along the way. But I remember from this one of the reasons was that I said, I don't believe anybody in history was wholly good nor wholly evil. I think it's like the yin yang. There's some good in the bad guys and there's some bad in the good guys. So then mistakenly, I went on to use the most extreme example, Adolf Hitler. He's the guy that most people would probably consider the most evil in human history, rightly or wrongly. And I said, I don't think, if I had to put money on it, I don't think he was sitting there planning the Holocaust going, oh, I'm so evil. I think he was going, this is the right thing to do. Jews are at the root of all of Germany's troubles and we must stop them from existing. He was now we obviously know the way he went about that and the way he thought was wrong. And killing 6 million Jews, of course I wouldn't endorse that. Come on. I mean, even if I did, do you think I'd say that on telly? No. So the point I said was Hitler was therefore misguided. He would have been fed a pack of lies by his entourage, who would fire him up and pass the different laws and policies that discriminated against Jews and persecuted against them. But because I said Hitler was misguided, apparently that's justification of the Holocaust. Now,
so you got an official warning about that, and ITV also decided not to broadcast that.
Yeah, it's. I think that was. Yeah, well, they said it justifies the Holocaust, and goes against Ofcom rules, so they cannot broadcast it. Do you think am I a villain, Dan?
Well, I think ITV have actually destroyed this show. And I really do believe that. And
you're not alone in those thoughts.
Well, no, and by the way, I feel deeply sad about this because some people who know my background will know I am like a long time Big Brother lover, right? Like I always used to appear on the spin-off shows, even when Russell Brand was hosting. God, do you remember that? What was that called? That was ages ago. So I used to appear on the spin-off shows, and then when Ryland Clark was hosting. But as soon as ITV took it on, I was like, this worries me. Because ITV is extremely woke. And if you look at what's happened in the House this year, it has absolutely been to demonize anyone with small c conservative views. Emily Hewitson, who's a friend of mine, she was booted within hours. I mean, it was utterly ludicrous. They were trying to make a point. And now we've got this crazy situation where a white dude who said that an aggressive black woman was barking at him has to go through the indignity of being lectured as if he is responsible for all past trauma suffered by said black woman. And that's okay. So I have huge problems with what they've done in the House, but that's why I'm really interested in the mechanisms of what happened here, because what used to happen with Big Brother is that when contestants were naughty or said something bad, we'd know about it. And that's what the show's meant to be, because then we can make our own judgment. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, everything you said I agree with. That's not the point. I need to know what you said so that we can make our own judgments. And it really disturbs me that all of this was going on behind closed doors, because I believe, George, there was actually another warning that you received that did not feature in the show at all. What happened in that case?
Well, just back a little.
Yeah.
A little. I don't think it's ITV. I think they're just a cog in the machine, and this is a sign of the times. It's like we can't, as I say, we can't be adults. We can't make our own judgment of what's right and what's wrong. We all know what's right and wrong. We don't need their supervision like this. I don't think, because it's not just ITV. If the show was still on Channel 5 or Channel 4, as it was back in the day, we'd see the same outcomes.
ITV is a particularly terrible broadcaster.
Oh, yeah, no, I've got no loyalties to them. They've sold me down the river.
Yeah. No, they'll be more than happy, ruin your life, make everyone think that you're an anti-Semitic monster and can never be hired again.
I don't hold loyalties to them.
Okay, but so what was the other occasion where you got a warning that we didn't know about?
Yes, so it took, on day 3, I received this warning, new record, I think, on my mum's birthday as well. So what a way to celebrate. No, this was a formal warning. Again, there was a couple of comments, but one of which, and the most prominent one, was, as someone, I'm sure you've clocked by now, ginger hair, I've got blue eyes, white skin. These are all recessive traits. Now, I was in a conversation, one of the housemates, white guy, Scottish guy, he says he likes Latino women. Fair play, each his own. Now, I said to him, just as a side bit of the conversation, I said, I feel something of an obligation to continue my recessive genes of ginger hair, blue eyes, white skin. Did you know that is the rarest form of human in the world? I'm a rare breed. So I do feel, and everyone's saying to me, oh, redheads are going extinct. Whether there's truth or that, in that, who knows? But I do feel like I should try and pass on my genes as a lot of other people do, no matter what colour you are. Now, I said, therefore, if I have a baby with a brown or a black woman, for example, the baby would have brown skin, brown eyes, and brown hair. Some people, whatever floats your boat, each his own. But I said on the end of that, and this is what I got in trouble for, if I did have a baby with someone of a different ethnic makeup, that I'd be betraying my kind in a way. Now, betraying, again, I could have used better words. I hold my hands up, but give a boy a break. They know the point I was making, and I don't think it's that offensive. Would it offend you?
Well, I think it's so shocking that they didn't broadcast that.
I know.
I mean,
are we big and ugly enough, aren't we?
Well, we are. And of course, I definitely am big enough and ugly enough. Look, I just think we've got to have these debates, because otherwise we get into the mad situation of the Meghan Markle interview, where she's able to say that the royal family are racist, right? Because there was a conversation that took place about what skin colour Archie was going to have, because it was a mixed race relationship. Like, I think if we just pretend that conversations about race don't happen, then we're very naive. So I think for me, what's so disturbing is the fact that all of these conversations were covered up. And then I did finally see the warning that you were given in public. And this one was about being homophobic, right? And I can say that as a gay man, I wasn't offended one bit. Basically, you made a comment about a very camp housemate sort of having a bit of a camp personality.
That's right. Yeah, so at this point, I never thought I'd last the full 7 weeks. I mean, I'm on day 3.
You're like, I'm a goner. What have I got myself in for?
Well, I thought, how am I going to last 7 weeks? Truth is, I didn't. But yes, I suppose I needed to give me a warning on camera, and this was the perfect opportunity. So at the end of the day, Caroline, my friend in there who got the transphobic warning, I love Caroline. Not for the comment, don't. But she thought it'd be fun to play a game and try and get the people that always sit on the fence, who don't show their opinions, to give them a chance to kind of rock the boat, if you will. So we played Spin the Bottle, Truth or Dare. Now, we spun the bottle, it landed on me. And everyone knows I call a spade, so I have nothing to hide. I picked truth. And she stitched me right up. She said, say something bad about each and every housemate. Now, that's basically face-to-face nominations. And I think this was the day before nominations day, so proper setting me up for failure. And I did get the most nominations, I hasten to add. But yeah, so I was going around the table just slagging everyone off. I really enjoyed it. But there was one guy, I said he was loud. Another girl, thick Northern Irish accent. I said, I can't really understand you half the time. Bit of clarity would be nice. Another girl, I said she needs to get involved more. She's very standoffish. And then I got to Sam and I said, Sam, I couldn't think of the word on the top of my head. So I was like, Sam, you're very, And I think it was the following day. At the time, Sam laughed about it. At the time, he was running around the table for his dare on the previous round. But he giggled, as did others, harmless. But everyone had a reason to feel offended. But apparently, Faye Shola, a different housemate, she went over to Sam after the game and said, "Oh, Sam, that looked like that offended you. Are you all right?" And then I think he was fine. He was just kind of nudged to try and villainize me.
Well, she's a menace, this woman. She is a menace.
Yeah,
she is a menace because she is this woman who has tried to claim that the contestant Cameron was in some way being racist or microaggressive by telling her to stop barking at him when she was barking at him for going up and trying to put some food back into the pot. So she is a real menace. And look, my overall point about this, George, is that in some ways it almost doesn't matter what you said. Like, I'm a free speech absolutist. I have debates on this show all the time. It doesn't matter whether I agree with you or whether I think that what you said was like bad or that I'm offended by whatever. It's like, we have to have these conversations. If we try and shut down every conversation that is going to offend the woke minority, that is where we end up, an authoritarian society. And while some people will say, Dan, why do you care about what's going on in Big Brother? I care because to me, this is a microcosm about what is happening in the wider world when it comes to the control of free speech, the control of our speech, the control of our thoughts, the control of our ideas. And I've seen that a lot in Big Brother this year, because I know that you said that you thought this woman, Caroline's comments were transphobic. Well, I don't believe they were, George. I think what Caroline was doing was stating a biological reality, which is that a woman who has a womb and has a vagina but happens to have cut off their breasts is not able to procreate with another woman. To me, that is a biological fact. It might be an offensive thing to some people to have heard that, but for her to be hauled over the coals and sort of destroyed as a person, as if she'd said something incredibly offensive, that was offensive to me. So again, for me, it's not that I'm standing up for necessarily what you said or even what Caroline said, because maybe some of the things you guys have said are nasty and may have offended some people in that house. My argument is that is the point. These are the conversations that we need to have sometimes.
Well, I say it was the thing is, what's a woman? For me, it's an adult female with XX chromosomes. Simple as. Now,
that Zila is not. Is unfortunately not a man. Now that might be an offensive thing for some people to say. Zila is a woman with a womb and with a vagina who has cut off their boobs. Now, again, I'm not trying to upset this Zila person who seems like a very nice character, but I just don't think Caroline should have been given that type of punishment for stating a biological reality, as offensive as it may have been to some people.
Yeah. All I will say, as I say, you're right. Zila is a nice guy, and he said some of the best chats he's had in the house have been with me, even though we lock horns all the time. We did really get on. All I will say, though, is by Big Brother's standards, the language Caroline used was unacceptable and was transphobic, whether you agree or not. And at the end of the day, we are guests in Big Brother's house, so if I was around your house, I'd take my shoes off out of respect for you. When I'm in the Big Brother house, I've got to play by their rules.
Well, look, I don't play the pronoun game anymore. I don't play the pronoun game anymore, and I'll tell you why. Because I think the pronoun game is dangerous. I think it's dangerous, and the pronoun game is what has led to young women being knocked out by male boxers in the ring because we all decided to play the let's be nicey pronoun game. Now, do you know there's a crazy fact? I'm not sure if you're aware of this, George, but do you know, and this was pointed out by Super TV, who said, not so fun fact, George Gilbert is only the second housemate in Big Brother UK history who never entered or exited the house through the front door. The other was Andrew Tate. So does this mean that you're now the new Andrew Tate with the launch of your YouTube channel? Are you trying to go down that route? Are you wanting to be controversial in public? Like, was this just a coincidence, or is it something that you're trying to emulate?
Well, if you're asking me, do I want to become a multimillionaire who has all the hot chicks, wives, and all the supercars you could ever dream of? I'll take it. But no, I am subversive by nature. I think with my YouTube channel, I've actually been doing it for some months now, but it's you know, baby steps and all that. It's getting there. And this is going to do a great help. So thank you very much, Dan, for having me on. This George Gilbert is the name of the channel. But what I want to achieve with my YouTube is my mission is to glorify rural Britain. I think to myself, what binds us together as a nation in this day and age? It's not British values. It's certainly not religion. It's not even language. I think it's Whitechapel Station, where the signage is not just in English, but now in Bengali or Hindi. The only thing that binds us together is currency. Now, if that's not a sign of the times, I don't know what it is. Now, I think the one thing we need to restore is national identity, because we need to recover what it means to be British. We need to revitalise patriotism, be proud to be British. We've given more to the world than any other country, I think. You know, 50% of all inventions in human history have been invented in this country, whether it's transport, the steam engine, music, there's Beatles, there's Bowie, whether it's literature, there's Austen, Shakespeare, the Bronte sisters, whether it's medicine, penicillin, saving millions of lives. We've given the world so much, and we deserve to be patriotic more than any other country, and yet we're the only ones that are not allowed to be by the status quo. So that's my mission. That's what I want to do from this. I'm going to lean into YouTube now and hopefully spread messages of goodwill. I live out in the sticks, so up to now it's just been about rural Britain, but maybe Vox Populi, Vox Dei, give the people what they want, you know? And at the moment, it seems people want to hear more of what this big gob has to say. So, yeah, I don't plan to be an Andrew Tate figure, but he's certainly done all right for himself. As have you, Dan. You're an inspiration, and thank you so much.
Oh, it's been so good to have you, George. Intel lady, I wanted to show you this because it did really make me laugh. Posted on X. BB UK hit the headlines last week when they removed housemate George for saying words that BB found problematic. The irony of Big Brother literally turning into actual Big Brother was entirely lost on BB, the contestants, fans, and ITV, so I made a dark parody, and I just wanted to show you a little bit of this, George.
Go on.
4:16 p.m.
Hello, Emma. How are you?
Hello, Big Brother. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Big Brother has called you in due to concern about the language you used earlier today. At 4:57 p.m, in a conversation with Savannah, you said the following: "I miss Steve. I can't wait to see Steve again. When I see Steve, I'm going to give him the biggest hug. I love Steve." Before you entered the Big Brother house, the rules on unacceptable language was explained to you. Steve was Savannah's name before she transitioned, so you repeatedly dead-named her. Do you understand how both your language and behaviour could be offensive to Savannah, your housemates, and the viewing public?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Steve is my husband. Steve is my husband's name. We've been married for 20 years. I just miss him. I'm so sorry. I am an ally of the LGBT community.
Just to correct you again, it's the LGBTQIA plus community.
Of course, sorry, the LGBTQIA plus community. Absolutely. I didn't mean any offence. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Big Brother takes hate crimes like this very seriously, and language like that is unacceptable. Big Brother has no option but to give you a warning. You will also redo the Respect, Dignity and Inclusion training course with Carol that you did before entering the Big Brother house. Is that clear?
Yes, I'm so sorry. It won't happen again. I won't mention my husband in the house ever again. So sorry.
Good. You may leave the diary room.
Thank you. So sorry.
And George, look, as a result of this, a lot of people are boycotting Big Brother now. How do you feel about that?
Oh, the amount of messages I've had saying, it's gone woke. It's not what it used to be. I'm not watching it ever again. They must have felt some sort of dent from all of this. And it's sad because Big Brother has always been one of my favourite reality shows, as you said earlier. It brands itself as a social experiment with a mix of different people from all walks of life, a plethora of different views and behaviours and beliefs. It's perfect, right up my street. People say, "Oh, George, would you go on Love Island?" No, thank you. But no, I wouldn't, because they don't seem to have it upstairs like I do.
And George, just finally, on a serious note, this misconduct investigation by your parish council, what's going on there?
Well,
misconduct? And this is just based on what you did in Big Brother?
Yeah, that's right. So I don't think anything has happened for certain yet. I think people are probably trying. We're quite divided as a parish council. Many are.
And are you independent on this council?
It's non-partisan, yeah. So,
And is it true that you are a Reform supporter? Is that true?
Yeah, well, I've got my quarrels with Reform. I mean, unless I lead a party, I'm always going to have disagreements with people. I disagree with my mum on certain things. But if there was an election tomorrow, I'd certainly vote for Reform. I think the current political divide is no longer left versus right. I think it's populist versus globalist. And Reform are the only populist party that look out for the nuclear family, for community, and for small businesses. These are the backbones of our economy and our society. And they're the only people that seem to get it. Now, I don't agree with everything they say, of course, but I think we should give them a chance, and I'm pleased to see they're doing very, very well in the polls. Who would you vote for, Dan?
Yeah, well, I voted for Reform UK at the last election, and I've been really open about that. As for the next election, way too much water under the bridge. I think Reform are making some good decisions at the moment, say on mass deportations. I think they're making some bad decisions too. For example, Nigel Farage over the weekend reversing all of the tax cuts, which were in the last manifesto. So it's really, really interesting. But look, I hope this parish council stops the witch hunt against you, George, because we've got to stop this. We've got to stop cancelling people. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because it's really important to me that even if someone says something that people are horrified by, or that I might personally disagree with. It is not the point. We cannot shut down speech. And have you noticed, it's never people on the left who get shut down for making outrageous comments. It's never Bush Rashake. It's never Narinder Kaur. They're still invited onto all of the mainstream shows, all of the mainstream channels. It's always people who are considered conservative in some way. So, George, good luck. Thank you so much. I think it's really, really important that you revealed what went on in the House from your point of view. And of course, your YouTube channel, George Gilbert YT, is launching today. So good luck with it, George. And I will be following what happens with you very closely. That is George Gilbert, who was axed from Big Brother for wrongspeak. Okay, to your feedback. Avatar, thank you for the super chat. He says, make no mistake, folks, Keir Starmer is doing this to crush resistance. Speaking about Tommy Robinson, he's going scorched earth on the English people. Go get him, Tommy. Tony Hancock says, for those of you planning to vote reform, please have a look at Ben Habib's interviews. He talks a lot of sense. The way they have treated Tommy is disgusting. Good luck, Tommy. Dean Drawwater says we need to protect our patriots like Tommy. I know he can look after himself, but he's had this nation's back for the last 2 decades. It's time we had his back. And British Rose writes, at what point does the government turn around and say enough is enough and kick Starmer out? How much damage has to be done before it's enough? Okay, time to reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jack. As a reminder of your nominees, Jivan Sander, nominated by English Pat79 for calling on the UK to take down British flags since it makes migrants uneasy. Tony Blair, nominated by Cat Brown for being Satan. And Ed Miliband, nominated by Blame Game, who says Labour are bankrupting the country for net zero and Grommet is fiddling the figures. And your results are in, let me get to them, in third place with 10% of the vote, Jivan Sander. The runner-up with 19% of the vote, Ed Miliband. But today's overwhelming winner with 71% of the vote, please God, Donald Trump, don't put this man in charge of Gaza. Tony Blair, the worst Briton in the world today, your union jackass. And today's Greatest Britain is Tommy Robinson, nominated by Met24 Met for his stamina, heroism, and tenacity. Met24 Met says lesser men would have given up long before this. And of course, on tomorrow's show, we will bring you coverage from Tommy's terror trial, day 2, that you will not get from the mainstream media. But next, we've got the Royal Uncancelled After Show, which we're going to host over on Substack. You can head there now, www.outspoken.live, teaming up with the Royal News Network today, as Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are living separate lives in New York. So at this stage, we come off YouTube and Rumble. We move to continue the conversation in the Uncancelled After Show at www.outspoken.live. But do remember, you can sign up for Outspoken as a podcast now completely for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, where we are available as a video podcast too. Just search for Dan Wootton Outspoken and please rate and review us. That would mean a lot to me. Okay, back with Tommy Terror Trial Day 2 at 5 p.m. UK time tomorrow, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So hit subscribe right now on YouTube or Rumble. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.